going to tie on a minnow, ahrex minnow. This is a size 1. I'm just laying down a quick base of thread, which is a generic 140D gel spun. Next up, I'm going to add a little bit of polar flash or crafty flash. Has a nice lot of points for light because it's a woven fiber rather than flat. Just trim it off to about 4 inches there. Next is a small pincher bucktail. It's about 3.5 inches or 3 to 3.5 inches long, and I'm just going to trim the end there and tie it down with a couple of loose wraps, not tight, and then I'm going to use my nail just to push it all the way around the shank, making sure it goes 360 degrees round. Double check it and then lock it down. Now I've cut out most parts, but at all steps I normally use a drop of super glue just to seal it. Next is a couple of grizzly hackles, one for each side, the saddle hackles, about the same length as the bucktail. I don't really want to go too long, but we're going to tie one on either side, slightly tented so they're not flat, but slightly V'd over the top, should I say. It's a couple of wraps, make sure they're where you want them, and then lock down and trim off the excess. I'm going to drop a super glue here, just to keep everything in place. Wind your thread forward a touch. Just neatening up the base there, make it look pretty. Next, we're going to take another piece of bucktail, slightly shorter, about 3 cent or about 2.5, 3 inches, and I'm just going to feather the ends with the scissors so it's an uneven finish, and that's because I'm going to tie this in as a bulkhead, which is kind of a reverse hollow tie. So again, it's 2 loose wraps to get it to sit. And the reason you're doing a shorter bunch is to get the taper, and why I feather it is so that you get a nice uneven edge on the bucktail tips. Now again, it's gone around 360 degrees, and it was 2 loose wraps to tie it in, and then you're going to lock it down in a second, and when you lock it down, you're going to pull on the thread down with or pull on the bobbin so that it flares slightly, as you can see. Then you're going to pull all those heads back, all the fibers back. Instead of cutting them off, you're going to pull them back and create a little thread dam in front of the tie point. So just pull it back, keep stroking it back, make sure that's a nice 90 degrees to the hook shank, to create that nice tight thread wrap, and then just take your scissors at an angle to the hook eye, and you're just going to trim off a few more of those longer ends just so it's not a solid straight line. This is basically like a hollow tie but in reverse, so instead of your butts going to the back of the hook and the tips to the front, it's back to front. Next, we're going to tie in another slightly shorter piece. It's about 2 inches, this one, so, or just over 2 inches, going slightly shorter than your previous tie, and doing the same thing, but instead of spreading it around the shank, you're doing it 180 degrees, so just on the bottom because it's creating the belly. Next up, we're going to take a little pinch of blue, and the same sort of thing. Ends are uneven, or the tips are uneven, and you're going to do 2 wraps and tie it directly on top of the other white. Lock it down with a couple of extra wraps, pull it down on the thread and flare it, keep the pressure on your thread, pull all the butt ends back, and you're going to create another thread dam. And this is to create a two-tone look. You can keep going single tone all the way forward, but I quite like this one as a two-tone. So again, building a little thread dam just to lock them all in place. And then we're going to add a drop of super glue, keep that thread dam in place so that it doesn't slide out or pop off. A couple of wraps over again. and use scissors again, just at an angle to the hook eye, not flat but angled, and you're just gonna cut those tips to make them slightly more uneven. You can be a bit gentle here, don't take too many off. Next up, another bunch on the belly, and again this is a shorter piece again. It's just over 2 inches long. Butt ends there were a bit long, so I just trim them off and then push them back to get an uneven edge, but we'll be able to feather it with scissors as well when we pull it back. Now again, on this one here, on the next tie point, I've actually mixed a bit of Sabai pike dubbing, which is quite a long flashy fiber in. This is the peacock that I mix in with a green chartreuse bucktail, and again a couple of thread wraps as well. Pull it all back in place and build another small thread dam. Now the Sabai pike dubbing is really cool stuff, but you do need to use it quite sparse. If you get too much in there, it tends to mat quite quickly with a fish, and it's very hard to brush out because it's quite delicate. Folded those butts back, build another thread dam, same as before. One thing to remember when you're doing thread dam or hollow tying or bulkhead tying is to make sure your thread is 90 degrees to the shank, because you want a nice clean tie point on there. Now the last Peter bucktail is the shortest of them all. It's only 2 inches. I've got some great short-haired bucktails that I use, a lot of doe tails, and again, you don't want to be using your long stuff and cutting a 6-inch bucktail down to 2 inches. So I've got I keep my short-haired bucktails for this particular purpose. Now the last tie on the top there is a mix of olive and again with peacock Sabai pike flash, and I've left the olive tips of the bucktail slightly longer because I like a bit more bulk to the back. I find it keels them better, but it's personal preference. Again, you don't have to do that. And again, I'm just going to lock it down with a bit of thread, or a bit of super glue, and I've built that nice neat little thread dam at the head, and then I'm going to feather this last bit of bucktail. As you can see, those longer olive on the top will create quite a nice back to this fly. And again, I'm leaving the bulk of the gape quite open. Again, the long ones just take a little bit more trimming. And then we're going to add a couple of, what are they called? Real jungle cock eyes. Again, you can add tab eyes if you like. You can use no eyes. But I do personally fancy jungle cock on my bucktail deceivers and bulkheads, etc., and hollow flies. Really like the look of the JC, old school. Bob Popovics was a master when it came to working with bucktail and figuring things out for the lot of us. The fly's pretty much done. I'm gonna just tie it off, trim off the excess stems or butt ends of the JC that I folded back, and then the fly's gonna get hung and dried, so it sets the profile as you saw at the beginning of the video. Looks a little bit flared now, but a little bit of water, cold water, leave it to hang. You can blow dry it as well, or you can just go and fish it because the water will create the profile anyways. Make sure you seal it off with whatever sealant you use, whether it be UV or super glue, and that's your fly done. As you can see, it's quite a nice bulky head. I'll have some nice pictures there in a second, still pictures of it washed and dried, but perfect little mackerel pattern for catching sea bass. again, like I said, scale it up. There's a lot of fish that'll eat that, but that's what I use. And yeah, enjoy. Thanks for watching. The next video will drop soon enough, I'm sure.